Good morning, Kaitlin here at Ground Zero Comics. One thing I get asked for a lot is for manga recommendations, and while I've got so many, I'm not going to take your time up with that. Right now I'm going to focus on a single series, Kaguya-sama, Love is War. It is one of my absolute all-time favorites. It's a romantic comedy, which means I tend to shy away from recommending it to people when they just ask me for something off the shelves. However, every single person I have introduced to Kaguya-sama has absolutely loved it, whether it be it Phil, who also works here at Ground Zero Comics, to my roommates, to my best friend who lives all the way across the country. At base premise, love is war. The person who confesses in a relationship is at a disadvantage for the entire time. So we have our president and our vice president of this prestigious high school constantly trying to trick the other into a confession, which can be anything from asking to share an umbrella to asking for the other's contact information. It can seem to be the most silly and mundane reason, but it could be seen as a love confession, so it is off the tables. Our president is Miyuki Shirogane, who is your average person for the most part, but he has worked his butt off to enter this prestigious high school where mostly everyone there is kind of the higher class. He has been the top of his grade for the entire second year he's been there, much to the frustration of the vice president, Kaguya-sama, whose family owns a conglomerate. She has a silver spoon in her mouth and a pretty limited worldview, and is very, very frustrated that someone is managing to outdo her academically. But where the series really shines is all of its supporting cast. From Chika Fujiwara, the secretary, who is always going to be that chaos factor. Anytime there is a wrench to be thrown on their plans, you gotta look at her for it. She has two big loves with gaming, where she'll suggest the randomest of games for the student council to partake in, to love talk. Anytime there's any kind of love discussion, she is on the case with her little detective hat there, Love Detective Chika. And then we've got our treasure, Yu Ishigami, who is honestly my favorite. He doesn't actually enter the series until the third volume, being only in the background before then. He likes to keep to himself with his video games and his headphones. But there's a really good reason for that as you get into everything. You've got Ai Hayasaka, who is Kaguya's lady-in-waiting / personal assistant, who does whatever she needs of her, be it sneaking into the student council room to switch the coffee to decaf, to doing any kind of underhanded task Kaguya needs done. We've got Kashiwagi and her boyfriend, who are regulars into the student council room seeking love advice. To Maki, who is a distant cousin of the Shinomiya family, who honestly doesn't have much presence until all of a sudden, bam, she's important. We've got the narrator, who honestly is a character in his own right, be it just the text bubbles saying what is actually going on in a certain scenario, who's pulling what, or in one particular case, how both of them aren't actually pulling anything like they both think. To, in the show, he is a very prominent force of nature. To Miko Ino, who is a disciplinary committee member who is very straight-laced and has a tendency to walk in at the most inopportune moments where everything seems completely immoral. While it is a romantic comedy, and obviously romance is a pretty big part, hence Love is War being in the name, the comedy is always on point, and it is what really pulls through this entire series. And the character dynamics are always so complicated, there's actually going to be a chart trying to explain to you how all the characters feel about each other. Another question I get asked is, should I read these books or should I just watch the show? Now, if you're like me, you want to do both. But I do understand where people are coming from. They only have so much time to partake, and they do have to make their choice sometimes. And I highly recommend the show. It is very enjoyable. I also obviously very highly recommend reading the books. There's actually a fair amount of content you are never going to get if you just watch the show. For instance, the starting story in both the show and the manga is about Fujiwara produces 2 tickets to a romantic movie that the rumor is any 2 people who go to see it become a couple. They're trying to trick the other into asking them to go to the movies because, that's a confession. However, if you just watch the show, what you don't know is there's actually 2 more pieces to that story, where Kaguya continues the charade trying to get him to ask her to the movies, and then another story where they actually go to the movies. There's so much more content that you're missing out if you only watch the show. And obviously this is all just my opinion, but I highly recommend Kaguya-sama Love is War. And I hope you guys check it out. As always, remember the 3 S's: like, subscribe, and share. And leave a comment down below. Let me know if you check it out and what you think. And as always, it's not about having what you want, it's about wanting what you have. I hope you all have a fantastic day.